Greetings and welcome back, everyone. This is The Angry Chicken. I'm Garrett, joined as always by Jocelyn. And Joss, we have a returning guest today.
We do. I'm super excited about this one.
I may call him Deck Tech, I may call him Nick, but both are his names, and he is returning. Welcome back, dude.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. I'm super excited to be back.
I'm glad you are back, man. I'm also glad that you're a cowboy if you're watching on video, because once again, we couldn't get your camera behaving, so we've got an old Halloween photo from your Facebook.
It's really me in my most natural state.
Trying
most
to keep
natural state, beautiful mustache.
So your natural state is trying to keep a fake mustache applied to your upper lip. I think there's some kind of auto voice correction happening, Nick, because whenever you make a very quick response, we get the last possible sound of it instead of the actual word.
Oh, okay. I will only give long-winded answers then.
Excellent.
Wonderful.
Perfect.
Wonderful. Listeners at home, nothing has gone smoothly starting the show today. Nothing at all. So we're rolling with it. Sometimes the internet gives you lemons and you give the internet the finger. That's what happens sometimes. But dude, since you were last on it, well, actually, regardless, doesn't matter. You just got back from Arlington. You were actually out at the Masters Tour stop to cover the event. I didn't realize that originally, and then I learned there were no spectators at this event, and I'm like, oh well, clearly Nick is out there to do proper coverage. So, as one of the few people who wasn't a player but got to actually go inside the building, how was the event?
It was great. So Blizzard agreed to send me out. First time they've ever sent me anywhere to cover something. So that was just dope in its own right. And I got to do some developer interviews, a couple player interviews. All of that stuff's going to be going up on blizzpro.com as soon as I get the time to finish transcribing and writing it all and everything. And it was just a total blast. There also actually did end up being a spectator space, but there was just a bit of a kerfuffle beforehand where I don't know why, but the arena thought there wasn't going to be a designated space for it, and it turns out it was available. And I don't know. There was an anime con next door, so I assume the people who were to have walked in instead just kind of got distracted and went to go cosplay as Naruto or something instead.
Well, you know, that makes sense. You always follow the weebs. always follow the weebs. That's good life advice. Well, cool. So, I mean, you got to, is your interview up yet? Who'd you get to interview?
Mine are not up yet. I will be posting them shortly, trying to get them out soon, since I can see that these other people who were there already got theirs out, so I need to pick up the pace. But yeah, I got to interview two product managers. One of them is Alex Charsky, who's of esports, and Drew Higby, not plural, who is also in charge of esports. He does more of like the broadcast aspect. So I got to talk to him about specifically putting on the show. And then we also got to do some player interviews. I got to talk to Bloodyface. We got to talk to Blizes, who ended up, spoiler alert, taking down the whole thing. So it was lots of fun.
Awesome. So, I know I've seen some other interviews with Alex up and around, but any highlights you want to tease before your interview goes up?
Yeah, I mean, it was just a really great chat, all considered. He's a nice guy, and he seems really passionate about putting on what they think is a good program for the participants. And I've already seen some people responding on Twitter about how they kind of disagree with the way things are going, but they've been a lot more willing to iterate, as we saw last year with them just changing formats in the middle of it. And it seemed like a lot of their changes that they made this year for Grandmasters and the Masters Tour was based a lot on feedback from the players and the audience and stuff. So I just I came away from it with just a good overall impression about what we're going to do with esports this year. And, if it doesn't work, then they'll fix it for next year or fix it halfway through this year like they had to last time. So, I think that was the best part of it.
So
any clarifications or anything around like who's going to be in Grandmaster, like what they might be doing with like Amnesiac and like stepping away, like is there a list somewhere of who are the Grandmasters for April?
You know what, you would think that would be a good thing to start with, just a list of everyone. I don't think it's a mystery, but I also couldn't tell you right off the top of my head. I know they showed the people who were the Grandmasters on stream. The new Grandmasters were on the stream for this Masters Tour event. They showed them momentarily. There's 7 new ones.
Okay. I'll have to see if I can find that then. I must have missed it. I watched like bits and pieces of Arlington, but I didn't watch the whole thing through. And man, I can't believe that there isn't like a blog post on playhearthstone.com that says like, hey, here's our new Grandmasters. This is what we're doing in April. Like, I don't know.
It is odd. Like, that's cool that it was shown on stream, but why isn't it somewhere permanent where you can just go and refer to it at any given time?
Because they want you to go to YouTube.
That's
maybe.
I want to go to YouTube.
So I just pulled it up.
Yeah, I want to go to YouTube after watching.
I just pulled it up for anyone who's curious. The new Europe Grandmasters are Zim and Felkane. The new APAC ones are Kin and Possessi. The new Americas ones are Language Hacker and Empanizado. And then Papa Jason is that third one who came in to replace Amnesiac.
Oh, okay. Okay. So Papa Jason he's the kind of wild card one that we weren't sure about, basically, because Amnesiac only just stepped away. So
those one word answers, man. Well, I don't know what is. Yeah. Does your microphone have a noise gate?
Probably the problem.
It's very strange. Yeah, because you sound great. It's just like it has a ramp up period before it actually starts letting you speak. It's very odd.
There'll be protection against the dogs later.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, I mean, so in talking with them, I mean, so were you mostly talking about changes made to Master Stores or to Grandmasters and just Hearthstone esports in general? Because as a spectator at home watching the Masters Tour, it didn't really seem any different to me.
Well, I mean, one big difference, of course, was that you were watching it on YouTube. So
wow.
We talked. Yeah, we talked about all of those things. Grandmasters, you wouldn't have noticed any changes because it hasn't started yet, right?
Right.
So we talked about what changes are going to be going forward. They released the rule book a little while ago, and if you were to flip through it, you'd notice that it's just like a way more complicated format this year than it was last year.
Yeah, I read through the rules and I was like, man, I really don't understand this, and I hope that there is someone smarter than me that can make like an infographic or some sort of like blog post, something with arrows. Like I really don't understand from their like big blocks of text. It's like, okay, we play this many games, then we like reseed things, then we like shuffle people around and they play this versus this over here, and then they do this, and then we have the Grandmaster season. I'm like, what? I don't know. It seems crazy. And I'm like, I follow Hearthstone esports like pretty closely, and I watch a lot of the tournaments and stuff. I'm like, if I can't wrap my head around this, like, I don't know, maybe it's just something that came from like traditional sports or maybe other card games that I'm not familiar with. Like, I don't know, but I'm like, I don't understand this like league format. It seems like they just smashed like 4 things together and said, this is how we're doing it this time. It's so weird.
Yeah, so when I was talking to them, they explained that basically what happened was they talked to the players after the first year because they split each year into 2 seasons. I keep trying to say it's season for when it's a year, but that's not quite right. So when I talked to them, they explained like we basically went back to the players and asked them what they wanted, and the players wanted, more diverse gameplay where we're playing different stuff so we don't get bored, and we wanted more games so that we could be on stream more, and also so that we're not just like waiting a week to play 2 matches and have nothing to do in the meantime, and we want our games to count. And so all of these things combined into the system where they're playing like basically 3 different mini tournaments, and that part is, I guess, to make it so that more of their games actually count. So you're not just like halfway through the season, well, I can't get relegated no matter what, but I also can't win, so I'm just not going to try, or those types of situations. And the fact that it's just really weird and complicated totally makes sense to me, that they asked the 48 smartest best people in Hearthstone how they wanted to play, and these people came up with an insane format with 3 different formats in one. And
yeah, it seems a little bit hard to follow. Maybe it'll make more sense when I'm actually seeing it in action, like week to week. Maybe then I'll understand, because I mean, one thing that I do think that they really messed up last year was the relegations. I really strongly feel that they had, I mean, Europe is a perfect example, when you had your bottom 4 all with the same amount of points, and then like Orange losing out on his spot by like these way obscure like 3rd level tiebreakers, versus like the other side where the top 6 were like way far ahead and the bottom 2 in the other pool were pretty close to the bottom. And like I always thought that it should just be the 2 lowest records in the region regardless. Like it just seemed so crazy and unfair the way that those tiebreakers worked out. So I just like something along the lines of, however they do it, just like having some sort of seeding involved in Grandmasters, I think is a really good idea. And obviously last year was the first year, so that might have been kind of hard to wrap their heads around, with all of the like top money earners being people who maybe made a lot of money early in Hearthstone, but then had been out of competitive, had gone back to streaming instead, plus some of the community players and stuff like that. They're just like, there was a lot of like decisions that went into the picking the first Grandmasters that would have made that specific group of people really hard to seed without like some big crazy tournament. So I kind of like what they've decided to do and like have a crazy format. But if it all shakes out in the end to the ones with the most skill rise to the top, then I'm okay with it, however crazy it ends up being.
Yes. I personally, I'm just exhausted with Hearthstone just not being able to figure out its esport. It never has. We've never had the same damn format or setup year after year ever. It changes every single year. I don't know why I expected this year to be any different, but
I hoped it would settle down eventually. I mean, we're in year 6, right?
Yes. Again, majority of the esports team got laid off last year. So yeah, I wasn't really expecting there to be much in the way of sanity or anything staying the same after the 2019 that Blizzard had. But yeah, this is it's convoluted to say the least. So my answer to that email we got like 2 weeks ago, which was like, how do I follow Hearthstone esports, remains the same. Just watch it and don't think about it too much.
Yeah, your guess is as good as ours. Yeah. And yeah, so I mean, speaking of just watching Hearthstone esports, I mean, I kind of want to talk a little bit about what we talked about last week, which was the whole move to YouTube thing. I was watching on Friday and it had 1.4K viewers, and the max I saw was like on Sunday. Now I didn't watch the finals, but it was like just shy of 5K, which, man, that's really, really low for live viewership of an esport, of Hearthstone esports. Like it's literally like 1/10 of the Twitch audience.
There were all kinds of weird things going on. I don't think there was fantastic marketing ahead of the event. I don't think it was made exceptionally clear that they moved to YouTube. I didn't really see a lot of language from Blizzard themselves saying, hey, we moved to YouTube. Like if you're into tech news, it was a big story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But if you're into Blizzard esports, it not really. Like if you're just like, you just want to keep up with your teams or your players, depending on what esport you're into with Blizzard, like you may have missed it. Very likely.
There was like what I can only call a footnote at the like congratulatory Hearthstone blog post after Arlington finished. It's literally in a font half the size of everything else that says like our next tour stop is going to be in Indonesia. And also you can catch all the action live on YouTube. Like, yeah. Wait, what? It's like after the event as a footnote in this teeny tiny italic font. I was like, what? Where's the big huzzah? We're on YouTube. Like, yay, promotional blog post. Like that should have gone up the week before Arlington and been like, this is where you go. Like, there were people in the YouTube chat that were saying like, oh man, I missed the first like day and a half of this event because I was waiting for the Twitch notification and figured I got the weekend wrong. Like,
I mean,
damn, man.
you probably couldn't make Twitch any matter that you left and went to YouTube. Why not just run a still image on the Hearthstone YouTube channels or a Twitch channel saying, catch us live at youtube.com/blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Here's the schedule. And this is the link where you can find it. Like,
yeah. And then maybe Twitch would take it down for non-content and then it would make headlines. And you also have some viral marketing going on for you. Like it's just,
well,
it's
you
a
don't even
win-win
have to
situation.
make it like a live stream. You have like, sorry, I'm offline, like screens you can set. Just make an offline screen that just says this is our schedule.
Yeah. To be less trolly, hey, Tom in chat rooms mentioning Kibler tweeting that he was having trouble finding it on his phone, even following their link. I don't know what was going on with that because, again, as I mentioned last week, I do watch some things live on YouTube, and I have been for a little while now. To me, I found it immediately. I went to YouTube. I didn't know where to go, so I searched Hearthstone, and the live stream was the first thing that popped up, which is, I think I mentioned that last week, is that YouTube live streams are pretty good about that, providing it's like the most obscure live stream ever. But if you're looking for something, usually through an official actual channel, it tends to pop up in search results as like any other normal freaking YouTube video that you search for. So in that regard, again, as I mentioned last week, I really like YouTube as a platform for this kind of stuff. I actually think their live streaming stuff works pretty well. I tend to hate change and am afraid of it. And I'm very used to watching my esports on Twitch. But that being said, I didn't have any issues tuning into this.
I had a couple of issues, and I mean, I have pretty good internet. That being said, like my TV isn't hardwired; it's on Wi-Fi, but where it
Casual.
I know.
Get a spool of cable and run it through your attic. What are you doing?
It literally would like skip once every about 10 minutes or so. It would like skip back in time by like 10 seconds and then play again, which was really weird, but you know. It wasn't the worst thing in the world. Every once in a while, it was just like, oh, that's annoying. And then I'd kind of forget about it just in time for it to do it again. Oh, that's annoying. But whatever. It was this weird glitch. But I will say, like, YouTube definitely got the better end of this deal because I woke up to let the dog out early on Saturday morning. It was about an hour before Arlington was supposed to start. So I was just like sitting on my couch and I'm like, well, I can't figure out how to find the live stream because I guess they're not actually live streaming yet. So I'm like, I don't really want to miss it. So I guess I'll just sit here and like browse YouTube, which is not a thing I normally do. So they literally got like an hour of like my viewership eyeballs on just random YouTube content. Like I watched a couple of videos about WoW stuff and they got my hour of viewership on these different videos, and I never would have spent any time. Like if that was streamed on Twitch, I would have found some other Twitch streamer. I would have watched a Twitch stream and then rolled into the Hearthstone stream when it started. So, I mean, YouTube's winning. Whatever they paid in money or servers to Blizz to get them to move, YouTube got the better end of that deal.
One last thing about the YouTube thing. When I was talking to one of these guys, I think probably Drew, he mentioned that one of the things they're excited about switching to YouTube is that since they're doing double the amount of Masters Tour stops this year, they're going to have double the amount of events that aren't in their core audience's time zones. And so they were talking about how they already have a lot of people who watch stuff primarily on VODs anyway. And I don't know how much of this is just kind of seen, you know, the silver lining versus how much of this is something that they're actually like actively pursuing. But he was talking about how they're excited about the fact that there's going to be, by the nature of the structure that they're using for Masters, there's going to be more time that you have to watch VODs anyway. So this is kind of like consolidating stuff where it's like, well, now you can watch the VODs where you would watch it live if you're watching it live anyway. And
which was exactly the way that it worked on Twitch, because they always had Twitch VODs and playlists and stuff cut up on Twitch. So it's exactly the same. What they don't have to do now is, I guess, upload from one service to another, because you could watch YouTube VODs or you could watch Twitch VODs. It was in both spaces. Now it's only going to be on YouTube. So
I mean, that being
swing and a miss on that one for me, Hearthstone. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first event.
I'm gonna call shenanigans.
It's the first event, and I think a lot of this could have been alleviated with better marketing and better links. Just link directly to the damn stream. But it's just it is strange. It is odd. I don't have a particularly strong horse in the race, because I watch most Hearthstone esports on VOD to begin with. And was reminded why while watching this, because I'm like, my God, there's so many breaks. Why are there so many breaks?
And all the commercials were those same 3 commercials. And I was just like, man, I can't watch the BlizzCon virtual ticket thing one more time. Like,
I had it on, and Katie came in. She's like, why the hell are they advertising the BlizzCon virtual ticket? And we both spent about 5 minutes on our phone like, can you still buy it? Turns out you can.
Oh, you can, because I know in previous years they've like taken everything down like 45 days after BlizzCon. So I just assumed you couldn't even buy it anymore.
I didn't read
what is going on.
This is like a weird sidebar, but I didn't read the fine print. It is discounted, and I'm wondering if that's because the actual content's gone and you're just buying into the goodies. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know.
I honestly have no clue. It was very strange. But
funny.
I don't want to dwell on that. That my issues with the breaks that Hearthstone Esports takes is well documented. That clearly hasn't changed.
We should talk about the tour stop a little bit, though, because it was still, I thought, entertaining. I didn't actually get to see the finals, but I did watch some of the top 8, and it was pretty cool. I mean, I was impressed and kind of happy to see like the variety of what made it to the top 8. I mean, like, everybody brought a rogue. We'll just get that out of the way. But then past that, I mean, you had stuff like, I mean, Tiz's lineup that was Holy Wrath Paladin and Combo Priest. Like, that was super cool. There was like a Quest Druid and a Quest Hunter alongside a bunch of different Highlander decks, like Warlock stuff, Mage stuff. Like, Shaman was the only thing not represented in this top 8. And even when you're looking down the different classes, you had different like archetypes in those classes that were represented. Like, even Rogue, 7 out of 8 of them were Galakron Rogue, but there was a Highlander Rogue in there. Like, I don't know. I thought there was actually some pretty good diversity in the decks that we saw in the top 8. So I think it was a good tournament.
Can someone please clip out you saying the only class that wasn't really represented was Shaman? Like, when the hell was the last time you were able to say that?
Yeah, they're like literally 0 Shaman over all of the top 8 decks. Crazy.
Yeah. So
so
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. The big thing was the French population, right? Out of the top 8, 4 of them were Frenchmen, and 2 of them, at least, including Blizes, who ended up winning it, were in the same, and Felkane, who's the new Grandmaster. Those 2 are in the same practice group, and they brought I'm pretty sure the exact same lineup. And then the other 2 Frenchmen brought 3 of the same decks, including the same tech in the Warlock specifically. And then 1 deck is the same class. They all had the warrior, except they had a different warrior. So
yeah, Felkane brought the Highlander warrior. Or no, wait. Sorry. Blizes and Felkane brought the Highlander warrior, and then the Galakron warrior was the other variant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did either of you catch Felkine versus A-Rock in the semis? Because that was just so... I was splitting at the seams. It was so funny. Just their little across the table mannerisms at each other. It was it was a reminder, like, all my grumbles about like whether or not there was an audience or not, which I didn't realize that there even was. Like, I was like, I don't care. This is like having the players in the same room is worth a lot because their kind of interplay of their personalities was so entertaining.
Well, and you don't often necessarily get to see that, right? Like, so often, even when they are in the same room, they're like just sitting there like concentrating on their keyboards, and you're just like, what are you even like looking at? Like, what's going on down there? But yeah, I don't know. It was cool to see like, you know, a little bit more interaction between the players for whatever reason, I guess because there's so many of them from that practice group.
Yeah,
they seem to be having fun with it. And another thing, you mentioned, Joss, that you missed the finals. That was probably because you took time to blink. The finals, they were playing so fast. I did a coverage for it again on Blizz Pro, and I tried to do like play-by-play type coverage of the whole top 8 day. And that finals match, I missed a few because I was doing player interviews and stuff. But other than that, I mostly did it except for that finals match, which was just like, you write one sentence about what happened, and by the time you look up, like 3 more turns have passed, and it's Jesus Christ.
Well, Blythe is just ridiculous and with how fast he plays, which is frankly refreshing. But
yeah, I liked watching his matches because I was just like, oh, okay, here we go. Like, not a rope every turn. This is so nice.
Yeah.
It's actually why I usually like watching the VODs from APAC, because man, the APAC players, they play so quickly. They never wait. All of them. They're just like, bam, 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 done. Let's go.
Also, just to save ourselves maybe a couple tweets or emails, the freaking Super Bowl was going on the same time as the finals. So, you know, some people may have been a little distracted with like the most popular sporting event of the year.
That's very, very true. And then so next up, we've got Masters Tour Indonesia. That's in March, the 19th to 22nd. And then after that, we've got the start of the next season of Grandmasters. So I'm interested to see what Grandmasters is going to do. But did we want to talk about Zephyrus at all, or do we want to just move on?
I mean, it was an interesting event. What's more interesting to me is that Celestalon, I'm sure it was cleared, but surprisingly candid on Twitter about all of this, saying that, yeah, that does seem like an issue. And Celestalon has a pretty long thread now that you can go read. It's still up there on Twitter, kind of going through his thoughts on how Zephyrus should work, and it ending saying that they're going to teach Zephyrus that costs over 10 are likely not really indicative of value.
Yeah, so essentially the options given to, and I'm totally blanking on which player it was, but basically anything like a big game hunter would have helped him actually win the game to kill Shirvala, but instead Zephyrus offered is it mind control instead, which he couldn't even play that turn. And so that ended up, he ended up losing the game, and he just got super, super tilted because Zephyrus offered him this 10 mana mind control card when BGH would have like swung the game. And I can totally understand where that frustration would come from, because like, Zeph, what are you thinking? And it turns out Celestalon said he thinks it's basically because it's a 25 mana card. So Zeph was like, oh, wow. Okay, yeah, we can totally steal 25 mana worth for 10. The value. It's like, no, Zeph, no. Yeah.
Zephyrus, the new mayor of Value Town.
Exactly. So, I mean, I understand, I guess, the logic he was programmed with. But at the same time, it's like, oh, man, like, why did that have to happen?
Yeah, and it's a kind of,
it was Falcine. Okay,
it's the kind of thing where it's like I look at the if we're talking about it in almost any other scenario, I go, yeah, Zephyrus, they swung for the fences on the Zephyrus design, and for the most part, it was a home run. I say it's a home run. There were people sitting on the other side of the stands. The ball hit a couple random attendees of the game. Like, you can only test for so many scenarios, and it's like. Kind of bonkers that we found ourselves in this specific scenario in a tournament that was broadcasted. Like, yeah, it is a total bummer. And at the same time, I really want to defend the Zephyrus here, because I want to see the dev team take risks like the design of Zephyrus moving into the future. I really don't want them to become timid. Like, oh God, we're going to possibly screw up esports which was Falcine, and he obviously, continued on through the tournament beyond that. But yeah. I like Celestalon's
super tilting
openness on Twitter. I think that's really cool. And cool that they're saying, yeah, that's probably shouldn't work that way, and we're going to do something about it. So that makes me happy to see.
Zeph is just his baby, and he wants to like explain to anyone who will listen how amazing he is and how he works and what's happening. And yeah, he is literally the Zephyrus expert.
Yeah, it's a great episode.
Have a problem? Talk to Celestalon.
Great episode of this very podcast with Celestalon telling the entire story of Zephyrus from last year. If you want to go back and find it, everybody. But anyways, before we move into the news segment directly, even though this is basically news what we're talking about, let's thank our patrons over at patreon.com/TAC for supporting this very podcast. If you like our podcast, you want to support us, go to patreon.com/TAC. And Joss, we've got some new patrons this week to thank. I want to thank Max McCornish, Blue Impulse, and Timothy Owen. I can actually pronounce these. Thank you. Thank you. Actually, I think that's Max McComish. That is not an R, that's an M. Go me.
Yeah, I wasn't going to stop you. You were so happy with how well you did pronouncing the names that I was like, I'm just going to let it go. But
thank you,
got
Max.
yourself.
Thank you. I appreciate it as someone whose last name is Weinzerl. Sorry.